Welcome back to Wake Up with DrCheryl, Wealth Transformation. I'm DrCheryl. Listening. This is such an important part of our daily relationships that I'm talking about it again. Here are some tips to keep your listening skills healthy. Don't interrupt. Have empathy. Don't criticize. Stay close, but don't intrude personal space. Observe body language. Let it show you, but don't let it distract you. Stay attentive. Share self-disclosure, but not too much too soon. Understand context. Listen with your senses and body awareness. While everybody has some skill to listening, the best listeners put a high priority to listening to others without allowing outside noise such as other thoughts, misconceptions, or biases to get in the way while listening. One of the things that keeps people from listening is the desire to speak. Often people involved in a conversation are more concerned about what they will say than they are about listening to what what currently being said by the other person in the conversation. Work on listening more intently by making no interruption day. On this day, you are not allowed to interrupt anybody you are talking to. Listen to the other people's complete thoughts instead of interjecting or saying something else quickly. This information came from eHow experts. Now I have a little joke. A very successful businessman had a meeting with his new son-in-law. "I love my daughter, and now I welcome you into the family," said the man. "To show you how much I care for you, I'm making you 50-50 partner in my business. All you have to do is go to the factory every day and learn the operations." The son-in-law interrupted. "I hate factories, and I can't stand the noise." "I see," replied the father-in-law. "Well then, you'll work in the office and take charge of some of the operations." "I hate office work," said the son-in-law, "and can't stand being stuck behind a desk all day." "Wait a minute," said the father-in-law. "I just made you half owner of a profitable corporation, but you don't like factories and you don't like office work. What am I going to do with you?" "Easy," said the young man. "Buy me out." Here's a good example of how good change is happening in the business world. New Barclays business executive Anthony Jenkins has opted not to take his bonus for 2012, saying he should bear an appropriate degree of accountability for the difficult year his bank endured. Yay! Giuseppe Orsi, the chairman of Italian Air Defense Group in Meccanica, who was arrested this week over the alleged involvement in a corruption scandal, has resigned his position. These examples are unfolding every week. I'm very honored to introduce our guest this evening, Vinca Heart. This is the first part of a two-part discussion with Vinca. Vinca Heart knows what it means to take a stand to face in great odds. She was raised behind the Berlin Wall, where the risk of imprisonment or death for not following the status quo was a real possibility. In the face of oppression, Vinca and her family made a choice and decided to join the underground movement with the hope of radical social change. Vinca served as a key politician, helped build the movement from a handful to millions, which led to the fall of the Berlin Wall. Growing up in a dictatorship regime didn't allow Vinca the freedom of speech, and one of the ways she expressed herself was as a child, as a piano prodigy. When the wall came down, Vinca made the bold move to come to America without knowing the language, and graduated from the exclusive Juilliard School in New York. Once arriving in America, Vinca had to quickly learn a new culture and create livelihood for herself out of thin air. She created one successful business after another, including serving as a sales expert for Daimler, Chrysler, and Christie's, and is best known for her specialty of serving high-end and celebrity clientele. She has coached and counseled members of the German Parliament, CEOs, Oscar nominees, Grammy winners, Tony winners, and other influential VIPs around the globe. Vinca is most grateful for the freedom of speech, her loving husband, and inspiring her clients to create multiple six-figure success while making a difference in the world. Welcome, Vinca. It is so good to have you here. Thank you for coming all the way from the East Bay.
Thank you for having me.
I am honored to have you as a guest, and I've talked to you about some of the questions I want to ask, but I think it's important to talk about this whole experience that you had with the Berlin Wall. I know I've discussed it with some other people in our studio, and they're all like, wow, wow. So please feel open and free to talk about it and your experience with it and how it started and
yeah. Well, thank you. My husband has always been. We've been married for 13 years, and
congratulations.
Thank you so much. But he's always encouraged me to talk about it, and I wouldn't talk about it. So it's been the last 6 years that I started talking about the past.
Well, good. I'm glad. Thank you for coming and sharing.
Yeah, and I want to share it more because I realized that it's important to share. First, yes. I was like, it's past, it's done. And it's really important to look at the lessons and share it.
And it's history. I mean, it's like a history for humanity to become free in that environment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the Berlin Wall in itself was a huge monument for everyone in the world. And I think when it came down, it meant a lot of things different things for a lot of people.
Well, what did it mean to you? I mean, especially since you were immersed.
Well, the interesting thing was the Berlin Wall coming down was a side effect. And this is interesting because it has something to do with money too. Because we were at that time, when the Berlin Wall came down, we were so involved in changing the country from the inside out that we were surprised that it happened.
Really?
Because we were in that, we were in the movement, we were growing the movement into millions. And so we were thinking about how we're going to change the country, what changes do we want? Is it safe? Is it not safe? And it's really interesting to see that this one night, my dad was at an underground meeting. Me and my mom, we came home, and we
it was your family that got involved with it, and so that's how you got involved with it.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Basically, we made a decision in the living room at one point. My family, as a family unit in a dictatorship, you have to make the decision together because it will affect everyone.
Right.
So if my dad would go in the underground, that would affect me too, in the sense, he would go to jail, we didn't know, or, we would have no rights, or we would have to leave the country, or things like that would happen. So it was a decision that we made all in the living room, saying, okay, are we going to do this?
So he needed your support. Was he the one that actually wanted to make that change or to get involved in this?
Yeah, both of them. Both of them were always rebels. I call them this rebel mentality because it's hard to explain what it's like when you live in a society that pretends, you have to pretend that it's one way, and it's the other, and then you have to watch at all times what you say, because it can get you into trouble.
Wow. Yeah.
And growing up with that as a child, I had to learn, I was around 7, and I was really you were brainwashed as a child how wonderful everything is and that the wall was protecting us. And I believed it, because I was very young. It was like the propaganda that was, you were.
I mean, everybody around you was living in the same
yes,
fantasy.
Yes, and I realized, with the conversation that were happening at home, that it wasn't the truth. And that was the split point for me as a young child to know that the outside world was something different than what the truth was. And I had to keep it separate.
That must have been very confusing for you.
It wasn't confusing, but I always had to, I couldn't trust people, and I had to always
outside
watch,
of your family.
Yeah, and I had to always watch my mind, like, in the sense of like, monitoring that I'm not saying the wrong thing.
Wow.
That was a really interesting experience. That to still express myself. Though my mom especially really taught us still to be in the boundaries between the lines, still tell the truth but they can't catch you.
That's a dichotomy in itself.
Yes, but that you had a little bit of freedom of expressing yourself.
So it was like you really had to be wise on who you were speaking with.
That too, and what you would say, and to know the thin line between, well, that gets us into jail, and this is still okay.
So stay in that perimeter. Wow. I mean, I know, like, growing up, like for myself, it's like you learn some rules, but you learn to be polite, and I mean, there's a certain moral thing but I can't imagine having this dictatorship over you. I mean, we're spoiled here.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry,
well, and also my godmother, she was 11 years in political prison.
Oh.
So her whole story, knowing that she got tortured, she was 1 year in solitary confinement. We knew the consequences.
Is she still living?
No, she died.
Oh, okay.
But she, she had a great life. She became a best-selling author. She was sharing a whole story, and she was like my second mom. Mm-hmm. But, she shared, that you don't have to become bitter.
Yes.
No matter what you go through.
Yes.
But the incredible part of her teaching and her living through all of it was that you can survive anything, and it was really great for her moment when the freedom came for everyone. Wow. Yeah.
And how old was she when she got her freedom? About
well, it was like, what was it, 25 years ago now?
Okay.
So
yeah.
It was like she was probably in her 60s.
Oh, okay.
Beginning 60s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was. It's really hard to describe what it's like when you cannot speak your truth or you can't travel. You know what I mean? The whole concept that you cannot leave the country. I mean, you can go to Czechoslovakia, we could travel to Hungary, but you had to have friends there in some form. And
is it because the Germans wouldn't actually let you out?
No, there was a huge wall in between us, and it was like a death zone of mines and dogs and incredible.
And that's what prevented you from traveling.
Well, and it wasn't allowed because people would flee.
Oh, okay.
So that. Sure. Oh, yeah. So people were shot. There are lots of people that were tried to flee and were shot at the wall.
And their own people.
Yeah, and and it was this, you became a traitor the moment you tried to flee. So you could also try to get out of the country officially.
But did you have to know someone in the government to enable to do that?
No, you could, but you lost all your rights. And you had to wait maybe 10, 15 years. Sometimes you were, declined. When you were in political prison, people would buy you out. So the West Germans would buy out East Germans who were in political prison. You had that chance to get out.
Yeah.
But the normal form was that you couldn't go and travel. And you couldn't buy anything. You had to wait for 10 years to get a car. So you applied to get a car, buy a car, and then you had to wait 10 years. So this is interesting. It was modest living. And there were some good sides to it. Besides having this constant, monitoring of the truth, and
Yes.
that you couldn't travel.
Well, it really kept your family unit strong.
Very strong. But a lot of people didn't have it because then, if you were we were more in the underground. There are people who were also in the Stasi. I don't know if you knew about the Stasi, but people who were informing on people. There were like around 3 million
Wow.
informers.
Like snitches.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they would inform on you.
So and the government would pay them, obviously.
Yeah, they were part of the government. So there's a crazy system of people informing on people. So you never knew who was an informant, who wasn't. And
wow.
that's where I learned reading people.
I'm sure you did.
Yes.
Because you couldn't trust anybody.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's true.
Wow.
Well, and then we made a decision. It was enough. There's a point in your life where you cannot live on. It was so depressing if we're gonna not do anything and just keep living like this.
Yeah, no, it's death. It's slow death.
Yeah, slow death or suicide almost.
Right.
Because you're giving up on life. My parents and we decided to become part of the underground in that moment.
What, if you can remember, what was the pivotal thing that happened when you really felt like you were definitely going to leave or had that peace inside yourself about this? That
inside of myself, well, I remember I was alone at home, and a person from the underground came to visit, who's now the mayor, or was the mayor of my town. I know a lot of people in politics through this times. And he came and he said, we're going to go on the streets on Monday. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, he said, we need to make banners. So get ready, we're getting on the streets on Monday. And I was saying, oh my God, this is going to be the visibility.
Yes.
And I see
making the stance.
Making a stand and being visible about what you want to create in your life and the freedom that you want to have.
Actually,
and that is so scary.
And it's powerful.
Very powerful. One of the most powerful moments for us was that moment when we decided to go onto the streets.
Yeah.
So we would actually meet every Monday in churches, because on church grounds you couldn't get arrested. Outside church grounds you would get arrested, but in the church itself they couldn't come in and arrest you. It was private grounds. Only private grounds under communism was the church grounds. So every Monday night at 6 we would meet in our dome. It's a huge church that we went to. And people came more and more. More and more people came every Monday night. And we decided then to go onto the streets.
Yeah.
And it was really scary because there were people there who were ready to shoot us. And there was the freedom of walking down the streets, showing up for our freedom. And that was a really big moment where you had to decide,
right.
we're going to go down.
Put your life in your hands.
Yes.
Did you at all have any experience of having to witness any deaths in front of yourself, in front of your own eyes?
No, the great thing is the whole revolution went without a death.
Oh, wonderful.
There was torture here and there. Some people got, arrested, but
oh, good.
They had to,
that's a blessing.
Yeah. And there were lots of people in political prison, who got caught and then taken in. Yeah. But no death in that moment. There was not one
peaceful
shot.
Mother Teresa would have loved this.
I know. It was the most, and we were prepared for anything, but it was this incredible gift that there was.
That's great.
No one died and no one got shot.
So it just got better from that point when you finally made the decision to go on the streets and make that stance. That it just started perpetuating.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the first time we did it was very very quiet, because we made a decision not to say a word, not to do anything.
Just do it.
We would just walk down
peacefully.
Main Street and see what happened.
How many people showed up the first time?
There were couple, 100 maybe.
Oh, okay. But
100
to start
people.
it, I mean,
And it was happening in all different cities.
Oh, okay.
In East Germany.
Oh, I'll see that. Okay.
And then the next Monday, more people came.
Yeah.
And then more people came.
Yeah. Yeah. Became.
And then in Berlin,
a movement.
It became this huge movement. Yeah.
Yes.
We had a lot of people in Berlin, November 4th, and then 5 days later, the wall came down just like that.
Oh, wow. That and thank you for being part of that, because that's part of the freedom of our humanity. Oh, well, getting back to the subject, I mean, and I know that you have a lot to contribute in this subject, is how were you taught around money? And especially coming, originally from Berlin, how were you taught? How were your parents, your caregivers, your teachers? How did they teach you about money and the value and et cetera?
Yeah, interesting thing was that I grew up, it didn't matter how much money you had, there was nothing to buy.
So it wasn't it didn't matter because you couldn't buy anyway.
No.
Oh, that's an interesting concept.
You went to the store, there was nothing there. I mean,
And here we have so many choices. It's like, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, it was a really interesting moment for me when, the wall came down and all this consumerism came in and the choices you had. Like
it's overwhelming.
You had like 20 kinds of toothpaste.
Oh, yeah.
Well, how do you choose that when you grow up with one? And why? And the whole interesting part of that, things can cost a different amount in different stores, but it could be the same thing.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with that. It was a huge moment. I was buying some pickles, and I said to this one woman, "Why are the pickles in this store more expensive than in the other?" I didn't get the concept that there's,
sure.
There's this freedom of you can price anything the way
you
want
was
to.
that here or was that actually in Germany?
It was in Germany.
It was in Germany. Okay.
Yeah, when the wall came down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was interesting.
Wow, to shift your mentality around it, because you weren't raised being materialistic. Basically.
No.
Not at all.
No. Well, we knew that, in the West there was this freedom and there was all these incredible products and the people smelled delicious and they had all these colorful things, It was like this, oh my God, this is incredible. And, for us it was more a very, very gray world, a very gray world. There was not much color.
And to the defense of the way you were raised, actually, our society has gone way too much the other way and being too materialistic, and it's gone way too far. And it isn't just here; it's all over the world. But so getting to spirituality, what do spiritual principles mean to you?
Around money.
Yes.
Well, I think my spiritual thinking about money is that it's an energy exchange, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's probably what you're teaching.
Yes.
It's this incredible thing. I do something, and I'm going to get compensated from you in form of money. So there's an exchange of energy that happens for people. And there are a lot of issues with that, because a lot of people have issues with receiving. Right? So receiving money is a big thing for people, or not sabotaging the receiving, or...
And what do you mean by that?
Well, when I say that, for example, I work with a lot of women entrepreneurs, so how they, price themselves lower than they should. Instead of raising their prices, they're worried about, charging too much. Or, sabotaging a sale, meaning in the sense of they talk the client out of the services that they have or product. That happens a lot, and or not following up, or being.
Do you think that has anything to do with a woman's, and especially today, of course, a woman not owning her total empowerment as a human being, as a spiritual person on this planet? Do you think it has anything to do with that? Well,
it's a lot how it was modeled by her mother and her grandmother.
That's what I talk about, is how, it all starts from our caregivers, our original caregivers.
Yeah, and how successful or unsuccessful that was, or how painful or successful, how wonderful it was. And that's how it's being, or how we are being treated, as a woman. And we haven't, if you think about women's history, in the beginning of the century weren't allowed to vote.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, there were a
Yes.
lot of things that
Yes.
are still, you know, the pay is still not quite the same.
No, it's not
And,
equal.
you know, and certain positions are still not filled with women.
Right.
And we still don't have a women president, but we do.
Not yet.
In Germany, we have one.
Yes, I know. I know.
But I'm just saying, you know,
Yes.
there's very little role models. There are role models, but it's not equally there
Yes.
yet. And
Yes.
so it's also the sad part of women also working against each other instead of collaborating,
Yes.
you know, with each other. And it's the pressure of trying to survive, you know, as a mom, as a caregiver to the family, because women always take care of everyone.
Right.
You know, the pressures of that you can't think well, especially around money, you know, when you have to pay for health insurance and education and all those things that are actually just that are the basic needs
Right.
of your survival.
Right.
And when you can't think well about that or about money or this constant worry that people have, especially women, because they are the source of, you know, taking care of everyone, supporting everyone. Not that I'm not saying men don't do that either, but it's really hard for them to think well about themselves and then about, you know, empowerment, like you said, empowerment.
And stay out of debt. Be a saver of money. You might need it for unexpected things that happen. Live on less than you make. This is extremely important. Make a written budget each month to keep you focused. Be a giver. By being a giver, it comes back to you in more ways than you can think. I'll leave you with this. If a person gets the attitude around money straight, it will help straighten out almost every other aspect in your life. By Billy Graham. I'd say it's been a biggest problem of my life. It's money. It takes a lot of money to make the dreams come true. And never give up on your pursuit of your purpose and passion. And even if you don't know what that is, work with integrity and have a positive attitude wherever you work, and especially with your family and friends. Be grateful for what you have, who you are, and be grateful for your freedom, and eat healthy. Good nutrition feeds the mind and your body. Don't forget to feed your spirituality with unconditional love. And firstly, love yourself unconditionally. And share your abundance and wealth with others. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Until next time.